I used to think nothing really happened after midnight, that the world just got quieter, smaller, less dangerous. I believed that for most of my 20s, mostly because my life ran on routines: work, commute, sleep, repeat. This happened in late November, a few weeks before Christmas. One of those years where winter arrived early but never fully committed. Cold enough to numb your fingers, not cold enough to snow. The kind of weather that made everything damp and gray. I was working late shifts back then. Inventory control at a distribution warehouse just off the highway. Nothing glamorous. Fluorescent lights, concrete floors, the constant beep of scanners. I finished at 12:10 a.m. every night. Clockwork. I didn't own a car then, never needed one. There was a bus that ran every hour past midnight. Same route, same driver most nights. It dropped me 2 blocks from my apartment. That night, November 23rd, I remember checking the time on my phone as I stepped outside the warehouse. 12:14 a.m. The air smelled like wet leaves and diesel. My breath fogged immediately. I pulled my jacket tighter and walked toward the bus stop across the access road. The lot was empty except for my supervisor's pickup and a dented white sedan that had been there for weeks. A streetlight flickered near the corner. On, off, on again. I remember thinking how quiet it felt. Too quiet for a place that sat less than half a mile from the highway. The bus stop was just a metal bench in a glass shelter with cracked panels. No ads, no map. Just a schedule sticker peeling off the side. I sat down and checked my phone again. 12:18 a.m. That's when I noticed the smell. It wasn't strong, just wrong, like old water and metal, a sour, stagnant scent that didn't belong outside in the cold. I assumed it was the drainage ditch nearby. I put my headphones in anyway. Didn't play anything. Just wanted the comfort of having them there. At 12:27 a.m., headlights appeared at the far end of the access road. The bus was early. That alone was unusual. It was never early, ever. The bus rolled up slower than usual and hissed as it stopped. The doors folded open with a tired wheeze. The driver wasn't the usual guy. This man was older, late 50s maybe. Gray hair cropped short. Heavy jacket zipped all the way up. No hat, no name badge that I could see. He didn't look at me when I boarded. I tapped my card. The reader beeped. Green light. Still no reaction. "Evening," I said out of habit. He nodded once. Just a small movement. Eyes fixed forward. I went and sat 3 rows from the back. Aisle seat. The vinyl was cold through my jeans. The doors closed. The bus pulled away. That's when I realized I was the only passenger. Not unusual in itself, but something about the emptiness felt heavier that night, like the air inside the bus was thicker. The lights flickered once overhead, then steadied. We passed the first intersection. Red light, no cross traffic. The bus didn't slow, it just went through. I leaned forward slightly, watching the driver's reflection in the glass. His face was slack, calm, hands steady on the wheel. Maybe the light had changed and I missed it. I told myself that. A few minutes later, we passed the turnoff toward the shopping plaza. The bus stayed straight. That wasn't the route. I sat up straighter. "Hey," I said, not loud. "This bus turns back there." No response. I could hear the engine humming beneath the floor, a low, constant vibration. The heater kicked on, blowing air that smelled faintly like rust. I stood and walked halfway down the aisle. "Sir?" He didn't turn his head. The road outside had changed. No streetlights now, just dark trees lining both sides. The pavement narrowed. Cracks spidered across the asphalt. I knew this road. It ran parallel to the highway, but dipped into an industrial back area. Old depots, abandoned way stations, storage yards that hadn't been used in years. The bus was not supposed to be there. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Low battery warning. I checked the time. 12:41 a.m. "Can you stop the bus?" I asked, louder now. The driver finally spoke. "Next stop," he said. His voice was flat, almost rehearsed. "When?" I asked. He didn't answer. The bus slowed near a rusted chain-link fence. Beyond it, I could see a wide gravel lot stretching into darkness. No buildings, no lights. There was a bus stop sign there, just a pole, no bench, no shelter. The sign was bent slightly, like it had been hit before. The bus doors opened. Cold air rushed in. "Next stop," the driver repeated. I stood there for a second, my heart thudding in my chest. Every instinct screamed not to get off. "I don't get off here," I said. He turned his head then, slowly. Up close, his eyes looked wrong. Not empty, just unfocused, like he wasn't really seeing me. "You do tonight," he said. My mouth went dry. "I think you've got the wrong..." The doors began to close. I panicked. I stepped forward and jammed my arm between them. The rubber edge pressed into my sleeve. "Stop," I said, "please." The bus halted with a mechanical sigh. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then he leaned closer. "You shouldn't still be on," he said quietly. My arm was shaking. I pulled it back and stumbled down the steps onto the gravel. The doors shut behind me. The bus pulled away immediately. No hesitation, no brake lights. I stood there alone, listening to the engine fade into the distance. I tried calling for a ride. No signal. The gravel lot stretched farther than I realized. Old tire marks crisscrossed the ground. Weeds pushed through cracks. Somewhere in the distance, metal clanged softly. Once. Twice. I walked toward the fence, thinking I could follow it back to the road. That's when I noticed the footprints. They were everywhere. Not fresh, not old. Just there. Dozens of overlapping shoe prints pressed into the gravel, all leading toward the bus stop, none leading away. My chest tightened. I turned in a slow circle, scanning the darkness. That's when I heard breathing, not close, but not far either. Slow, heavy, like someone trying not to be heard. "Hello?" I called, hating how thin my voice sounded. The breathing stopped. My phone buzzed again. 1% battery. A shape moved near the far edge of the lot. Just a shift in darkness. Then another. I backed toward the fence, gravel crunching under my boots. The sound felt impossibly loud. The shapes didn't move closer. They didn't need to. The bus stop sign creaked softly behind me. I turned. Someone was standing there. A man. Maybe? Tall. Wearing a jacket too thin for the cold. His face was turned away, staring down the road the bus had taken. "Did you miss it too?" he asked. I didn't answer. He tilted his head slightly, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. "They're late tonight," he said. I took a step back. "There's no bus," I said. "Not here." He turned toward me then. His face was pale, eyes sunken, lips cracked and blue. "Oh," he said, "there is." My phone died. The screen went black in my hand. The lights came back on an instant later, headlights flooding the lot. Another bus approached from the road. Same number, same route. I ran. I don't remember crossing the fence. I don't remember the road back. I just remember running until my lungs burned and my legs went numb. I reached the highway's shoulder just as traffic picked up again. A passing driver pulled over and let me use his phone. When I got home, it was almost 3 a.m. The next morning, I called the transit authority, asked about the route, about the driver. They told me the late-night bus had been suspended that week due to maintenance. No service after midnight, no drivers assigned. I don't take buses anymore. And every November, when the nights get damp and the air smells like metal, I still check the time, just to make sure it's not too late. This happened in early February, the kind of winter week where the cold didn't feel dramatic, just exhausting. Gray skies, frozen sidewalks, the sun going down before you even felt awake. I was between apartments then, a short gap, 10 days. Too long for a couch, too short to sign anything serious. A friend of a friend offered me a place to stay, his aunt's house technically. She'd moved into assisted living the year before. The house was empty but still furnished, still heated, still being checked on once a week. "It's basically just sitting there," my friend said. "As long as you lock up and don't mess anything up, it's fine." The house was in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. Not rural, not suburban either. Just rows of older homes built in the 70s. Long driveways, bare trees, yellow porch lights that stayed on all night. I moved in on a Sunday afternoon, February 4th. The temperature was just below freezing. Snow piled in patches along the curb, dirty and compacted. The house itself looked normal. Beige siding, brown shutters, single-car garage. Nothing about it stood out. Inside, it smelled like lemon cleaner and old fabric. The heat was on low, humming softly through the vents. Furniture was covered in sheets, but everything else was left as is. Family photos on the walls. Calendars still turned to the previous year. I unpacked in the guest room upstairs. Small bed, floral curtains, dresser that stuck when you pulled the second drawer. That first night, I slept fine. The second night, I woke up sweating. I checked my phone. 2:17 a.m. The room felt wrong, too warm, like the heat had been cranked up while I slept. My t-shirt clung to my back. The air felt thick, almost damp. I sat up and listened. The house was quiet. No TV noise, no traffic outside, just the low hum of the furnace running. That was strange. The thermostat was set to 68. I'd checked it myself before bed. I went downstairs and stood in the hallway in my socks, feeling the heat push out of the vents. The thermostat read 74. I turned it back down and stood there for a minute, waiting for the furnace to shut off. It didn't. I assumed it was delayed. Old system. Houses like that had quirks. I went back to bed. The next morning, the thermostat read 70. I didn't think much of it. Tuesday passed quietly. I worked remotely from the dining table. The house stayed warm but comfortable. I cooked pasta for dinner, watched TV in the living room. At 11:30 p.m., I turned off the lights and went upstairs. I woke again at night. This time the heat was intense. It felt like standing too close to a fireplace. My skin was hot. My breathing felt shallow. 2:41 a.m. The vent above the door was blowing hard, loud enough to hear. I threw the covers off and went downstairs again. The thermostat read 78. I stood there staring at it, my heart starting to beat faster. I hadn't touched it. I turned it down to 66 and waited. The furnace kept running. That's when I noticed something else. The back door was unlocked. I knew I had locked it. I always did. It was a habit drilled into me since I was a kid. I checked the front door. Locked. The garage door. Locked. Just the back door. I locked it again and stood there for a while listening. Nothing moved. I told myself it was an old lock. Temperature changes, wood swelling. I went back upstairs. The third night, I didn't sleep much. I kept waking up to the sound of air rushing through the vents. Not just turning on and off, but constant, like the system was working overtime. At 3:12 a.m., I heard footsteps, slow ones, downstairs. I froze in bed listening. The sound wasn't loud, it wasn't rushed, just deliberate movement. A step, a pause, another step. I sat up, my heart pounding in my ears. The footsteps stopped near the bottom of the stairs. I waited for them to come up. They didn't. Instead, I heard the thermostat beep. One single beep. I didn't move for a long time. Eventually, the house went quiet again. The heat shut off. The air cooled. When I checked the thermostat in the morning, it read 72. Wednesday afternoon, I called my friend. "Does anyone else have access to the house?" I asked. He hesitated. "No," he said. "Why?" I told him about the heat, the unlocked door, the footsteps. He laughed, but not convincingly. "That place always ran hot," he said. "Old insulation. And you know how houses sound at night." I didn't push it. That evening, the temperature dropped outside. Snow started falling around 9 p.m., thick flakes that stuck immediately. I made soup, sat in the living room, tried to relax. At 10:58 p.m., the power flickered. Just for a second. The lights dimmed, came back. The furnace kicked on immediately. Hard. By midnight, the house felt like a sauna. I checked the thermostat. 80 degrees. I turned it down to 65. It beeped. A second later, it beeped again. The number changed back to 80. My mouth went dry. I tried again. Same thing. I stood there staring at it, my reflection faint in the plastic cover. "Okay," I said out loud. "Okay." I unplugged it from the wall. The furnace kept running. That's when I smelled something burning. Not smoke, not electrical, more like overheated dust and metal. The vents rattled. I backed away slowly, my skin prickling. From upstairs, I heard a door open. The guest room door. I hadn't closed it. The sound was unmistakable. The soft click of a latch releasing. The slow creak of hinges. I grabbed my phone and ran for the front door. It wouldn't open. The knob turned, but the door didn't budge. I tried again, harder. Nothing. I ran to the back door. Locked, solid. The garage door wouldn't lift. The heat was unbearable now. Sweat ran down my neck. My shirt stuck to my chest. The vents roared. From the stairs, I heard movement again. Heavier this time. Coming down. I didn't look. I stood in the kitchen, shaking, staring at the hallway. The furnace cut off suddenly. Silence slammed into the house. Then footsteps continued. Closer. I saw a shadow stretch across the wall. Long, thin, distorted by the hallway light. I backed into the counter, my hands gripping the edge. "Hello?" I whispered. The footsteps stopped. The thermostat beeped again. I glanced at it. 68 degrees. Perfect. The shadow disappeared. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen until morning, every light on, jacket still on my body. When the sun came up, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The vent covers had fingerprints on them, smudged, dark, pressed into the metal. Too many to count. I packed my things that morning and left. I didn't tell my friend everything, just said I found somewhere else. A week later, he called me. "They turned the heat off at the house," he said. "No one's staying there now." "That's good," I said. "Yeah," he replied. "Funny thing, though." I waited. They said the furnace kept running, even after they shut it down at the breaker. I didn't ask anything else. I still can't sleep in overheated rooms, and sometimes in the middle of winter, when I wake up sweating for no reason at all, I lie still and listen, waiting to hear the vents come alive. I was driving north when it happened. Late summer. August 17th, according to the receipt I found later in my glove box. One of those nights where the heat still clung to everything even after the sun went down. The air felt thick, unmoving, like the world was holding its breath. I'd been on the road since 6 p.m., visiting my sister 2 states over. Left later than planned. Traffic, work calls that wouldn't end. By the time I crossed the state line, it was already dark. I took the highway because it was faster, less thinking, just miles and headlights. The radio faded in and out as I drove, static swallowing the music every few minutes. I kept adjusting it, but nothing held. Eventually, I turned it off and drove in silence. That's when I noticed how empty the road had become. Not deserted, just thin. A car every few minutes, headlights passing like brief thoughts you don't hold on to. Around 11:40 p.m., I passed mile marker 118. I remember because I always track progress that way. Breaks the drive into manageable pieces. My GPS said I had about an hour and 10 minutes left. I rolled down the window for air. Warm wind rushed in, carrying the smell of asphalt and dry grass. 10 minutes later, I passed mile marker 118 again. I actually laughed when I saw it. A short, tired sound. "Okay," I said out loud. "Sure." I assumed I'd misread it the first time, or maybe the markers restarted after the county line. It wasn't worth worrying about. Still, I checked my GPS. Same ETA, same route. The road ahead curved gently to the right, disappearing into darkness. Trees pressed close on both sides now, taller and denser than before. No lights except my own. I drove another 15 minutes. Mile marker 118. This time I slowed down. I stared at it as I passed. Same reflective numbers, same small dent near the base, same patch of weeds leaning against the post. My stomach tightened. I checked the odometer. It had moved. Everything said I was going forward. I pulled over onto the shoulder. The car idled, engine ticking softly. Insects buzzed somewhere beyond the tree line. The air felt heavy against my skin. I stepped out and stood by the driver's door, looking back down the road. The mile marker stood there behind me, glowing faintly in my taillights. 118. I took a picture of it with my phone. The timestamp read 12:07 a.m. I got back in the car and drove. I told myself I wouldn't stop again. Whatever this was, I'd drive through it. The road stayed the same. 2 lanes, faded white lines, occasional reflectors blinking past like tired eyes. No exits, no signs, no overpasses. At 12:22 a.m., my headlights swept over the mile marker again. 118. My heart started beating faster. Not panic yet, just a rising unease, like realizing someone was standing too close behind you. I noticed something else then. There were no skid marks, no debris, no roadkill. The pavement looked untouched. Clean in a way roads never are. I rolled my shoulders, trying to shake the tension. "This is stupid," I muttered. I pressed the accelerator harder. The speedometer climbed 70, 75, 80. The trees blurred slightly at the edges. The hum of the tires grew louder. The mile marker came and went again. 118. I slammed my hands against the steering wheel. "Okay," I said louder now. "Okay." I reached for my phone to call someone. No signal, not even a flicker. The GPS screen froze. The arrow stopped moving, still pointing straight ahead. The clock on the dashboard read 12:39 a.m. It didn't change after that. I kept driving. At some point, I noticed another car ahead of me. Red taillights. Far off but steady. Relief washed through me so hard it almost made me dizzy. I eased off the gas and followed at a distance, not wanting to lose sight of them. The road didn't feel as empty with someone else on it. We passed the mile marker together. 118. The other car didn't slow. Neither did I. After a while, minutes or longer, I couldn't tell, I realized the distance between us wasn't changing. No matter how fast or slow I went, the gap stayed the same. I flashed my headlights. Nothing. I honked once. The sound felt wrong in the still air. Too loud, too sudden. The car ahead didn't react. That's when I noticed its license plate. There wasn't one. Just a dark rectangle where it should have been. My chest tightened. I slowed down. The car slowed too. I sped up. So did it. I was breathing harder now, my hands slick on the wheel. The mile marker appeared again. 118. As I passed it, something new caught my eye. There was a person standing beside it. I slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a stop, seatbelt biting into my chest. The figure stood just off the shoulder. A man, I thought. Tall, thin, wearing a light-colored shirt that looked gray in my headlights. He didn't move. I rolled the window down halfway. "Hey," I called. My voice sounded weak. No response. He stood with his head slightly bowed, arms hanging loosely at his sides. I didn't see a car nearby. No hazard lights, no phone glow. "You okay?" I asked. He lifted his head slowly. His face was hard to make out. Shadows swallowed most of it, but I could see his eyes. They were wide, too wide. "Which time is it?" he asked. My throat went dry. "What?" I said. "Which time?" he repeated. His voice was calm, flat. I glanced at the dashboard. 12:39 a.m. "It's almost 1, I said. He nodded once. "That's better," he said. He stepped back, away from the road. As he did, I noticed something behind him. More people, standing just beyond the reach of my headlights, half hidden by the trees. Shapes, still, silent, watching. I rolled the window up and drove. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. The red taillights appeared ahead again almost immediately. I followed, my mind racing, my pulse loud in my ears. The road felt narrower now, the trees closer. The air inside the car grew warm and stale. My phone vibrated suddenly in the cup holder. I nearly swerved. A notification, no bars, no signal, just a vibration. I picked it up. The picture I'd taken of the mile marker filled the screen. Only it wasn't the same. The number wasn't 118 anymore. It was blank. Just the post. No numbers, no reflectors. The timestamp read 12:39 a.m. The clock on the dashboard flickered. 12:40. The red taillights ahead swerved suddenly. Hard to the right. There was no road there. But the car went anyway. Disappeared between the trees like it had never existed. I screamed. I don't remember deciding to turn. My hands just moved. The wheel spun. The car left the pavement. Branches scraped against the sides. Something hit the windshield and cracked it. Then, silence. I was stopped. The engine stalled. I sat there shaking, breathing fast, listening. No insects, no wind, no movement. I opened my door. Cold air rushed in. I stepped out and looked around. I was in a gravel turnout beside the highway. A rest stop sign stood nearby, dimly lit, familiar. Cars passed on the road beyond it. Real cars, loud, fast. I staggered toward the sign. Mile marker 119. I fell to my knees and laughed, then cried, then both. A state trooper found me there around 1:30 a.m., asked if I was okay, asked where I was headed. I told him everything. He listened politely, nodded, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he looked down the road behind me. There hasn't been a mile marker 118 on this stretch in years, he said. They replaced it after an accident. What accident? I asked. He hesitated. Multiple vehicles, he said. Same night, same time. I asked him how far back it was. He checked his watch. About 12 years ago, he said, almost to the minute. I drove the rest of the way in silence. I don't drive at night anymore if I can help it. And I don't look at mile markers. Because sometimes when I'm tired enough, I still see it in my headlights. 118. Waiting.